I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. I am Ben Dietrich. Jordan Rodelli is on vacation, but Andrew Quo, he doesn't take days off, even when we record once over a 16-day span. How do you do it? How do you do it, Andrew? How do you show up every day, except for 15 days on the last two?
I mean, what you forget to mention is we rocking so hard on these streets until 11 p.m. every night. So, like, just to wake up the next day at a reasonable hour, maybe 11 a.m., 12 hours later, is that is called no days off.
Well, King.
Thank you.
The curfew goes to midnight as of Monday. Midnight. We're going to be allowed out until midnight. Per your man, Governor Cuomo.
My man. Yeah, it's like we had such a limited window for so many months to begin with. Adding an hour seems arbitrary, but it's huge, right? Like, it kind of like adds a third of our hang time onto our original hang time.
Well, the 10 o'clock was just useless. And without getting into even the actual effectiveness of having a 10 o'clock curfew for dining and drinking during a pandemic, like regardless of the science, that the non-existent science that went along with those decisions, you are right. Because going from 10 to 11 felt significant.
Yeah, man.
You could get dinner and a drink. Going to midnight. Whew. Wow.
Like, there's a wide gap between 11 and midnight, right? Like, even without a pandemic, some people kind of called midnight a night. Not us, because, we take no hours off. But I think, like, the divide between 11 and 10 is just like a broad one. That's from, like, being poor and not poor. But not like poor or not poor.
Well, I would say that once you get like around midnight, you're getting towards peak time to enjoy and beer.
So you're savoring the last few sips of your ice cold single serving of brew by midnight. I mean, it's taking you an hour to get there. You want to finish strong, right? You want to be clutch about this beer.
Well, the difficult part now is that I've become so skilled at saving a beer, nursing my one beer from like 7 to 10.
Or drinking it like a normal dude from 7 to 10. Let's normalize it.
With midnight, I've got to spend 5 hours drinking and beer. And I'm worried that once we get to 4 a.m., now I'm going to be out there like working a full shift, slowly whittling away at an beer and beverage.
Hey, they say timing is everything, man. It's clock management. We can do this. Like, you don't want to leave too much time on the clock for your opponent to sink that lean in 3-pointer.
The thing is with the curfew, not only is it very infantilizing, of course, but are they just going to keep going hourly? It's like, okay, let's check this out. All right, now it's 1.
Yeah.
Now it's 2. All right. If you're really good, we'll take it back to 4. I don't get the resistance to just saying, all right, it's 4. If you've allowed, and we know that a huge population of people are vaccinated, are 2 weeks into that, the whole service industry has been eligible to be vaccinated for months. Like, why would you even have a curfew? We've gotten into this a bit. I'm just surprised that they just said, all right, it's midnight, and not, okay, do what you want.
I always have this thought, but even in New York City, it's odd because we feel like we're coastal elitism. We feel like we're not a part of like this country culturally in general. But we are, because like this is a country founded by Puritans, right? Like, and the more stuff unfolds in a time like this year, I'm just like, oh, we're still scared of alcohol. And like alcohol is something that there's data involved that like could cause accidents, danger, crime, whatever. But like we're scared of these things that I think the Puritans were scared of, and that's why they fled like Europe. And I think about that Q documentary on HBO, right? And a couple of my friends watch it, and they were texting me being like, these people, how could they believe these things? I'm like, well, the premise of our country is kind of based off of like a little red guy in the middle of Earth with a pitchfork. So like, it's not that wild that we adhere to like these ideas every step of the way, right?
On one hand, that's totally true. We are a fairly repressive society who's cool because of like sex and violence, except that we're not a particularly sex-friendly nation at all.
No. Yeah.
But that's kind of our thing. Like here's the blonde Marilyn Monroe starlet, and there's a rifle, there's a handgun.
Yeah.
That's the Wild West. So there's an odd parallel there where it's almost just Hollywood. We're associated with, like, the Kardashians sell sex, but they're not sexy. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. I don't know. I'm not getting into judging them. I just mean that's the brand, but it's not like the same as like French aesthetics. I don't know.
I mean, Keith Van Horn sells sex, but he's not necessarily sexy, right?
I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm phrasing it correctly.
No,
I'm just mostly
you.
saying like America has this like sex and violence appeal, but we're not really that into it. I don't know. You do have this religious fundamentalism that underlies, American history, and
For sure.
you can put it across the board, whether it's anti-dancing. Like now it's like, yes, TikTok is great, but we didn't start out dancing as far as the white people who came to America. Non-dancers didn't like it. Didn't like music, dancing, as you said, didn't like booze, didn't like raving. They rarely raved.
And the founders of the country were strictly anti-ketamine for sure. And but
They were never at the K-Loft.
But even simple things like staying up late at night has been kind of frowned upon in American culture, right? Like, it means you're lazy. You're not Kobe Bryant. Like, don't go to the club, go to the gym. And I'm like, no, just you can go to the club. Your friends are there. There's good music. There's artists like doing their thing. The
Early
club
to
is
bed,
good.
early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Fuck out of here.
I mean, I'm biased because I'm a night person, but as I transition to being a morning person more these days, I'm like, ain't nothing good happening in the morning. Like, there's no takes from games hours and hours ago. Like, there's no one's up doing like heater tweeting. I don't love the morning. The morning's whack.
I mean, I kind of like mornings, but I also like the middle of the night too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wildly fluctuate schedule wise.
For sure.
I will wake up at 6:37 for a few weeks, and then I'll wake up at 10 and stay up until 4. Right now, I'm on a bit of a late night kick. I'm going to bed at like 2:30.
For sure. There was an article, I think, that was published this week about some guy who claims that getting 8 straight hours of sleep is like a Western construct based off like the workday, and human beings were kind of programmed to sleep in chunks throughout the day for like 4 hours, 5 hours, wake up every 2.5 hours to like find food, reproduce, and to talk to each other, and then go back to sleep. It was kind of interesting.
If the pandy has done anything, it's normalized napping.
Yeah, it has. I mean, thankfully, we're out of the normalizing sweatpants thing. I'm a huge proponent of sweatpants, no kink shaming, but that kind of had its ceiling in terms of jokes. Napping, on the other hand, is endless.
Yeah, like bring the American siesta to fruition. Mm-hmm. I guess tech companies try to do that and have little like like catnap nooks alongside their ball crawls and ping pong tables and whatever was going on when there were office spaces and huge lofts with beanbag chairs.
I mean, that got spun a zillion different ways, from like tech companies being the anti-McDonald's. They wanted just you to stay there because they thought you were more productive. But it ends up being like you're more productive, and sometimes you're happier, but sometimes you're not. It's all based off of what you're paid. Damn, did you see that WeWork documentary?
I have not seen that, but just to revisit the point you made before, you are 100% accurate that all these companies want to keep you on campus, keep you in the building, because it gets you back at your desk.
Yeah. And they weren't even sure that it was a bad thing at the time. You know, they were like, well, what if this is the way to change the way we work? What if this is like a new way of existing in a society, whatever?
Well, I remember working in an office job many years ago, and it was not really acceptable to like go out for lunch every day. It was assumed that you would go to the cafeteria in the building, pick up your lunch, and bring it back to your desk.
Yeah.
Like that was just like culturally the assumption that you wouldn't take a lunch unless it was a very special occasion or for a meeting or for clients or whatever. It was, no, you eat your burger staring at your computer screen.
Yeah. And I like the idea that starts that idea, which is like we want our people, our collaborators, our employees to be happy. And we think this makes them happy. I think what we found in that experience was it's personnel, right? If you're happy doing that, if you're Kobe Bryant, you want to go to the gym after landing a plane, like, cool, do it. If you're Allen Iverson, you want to go to the club, like, that's fine. You're a top 5 NBA player, you know? That doesn't prevent you from winning a championship. So, like, this is back to the authenticity of a basketball shot, right? Like, I don't know in the process of being, like, a successful person at work how authentic someone has to be. A reasonable amount, I think.
I mean, I think this ties into, I guess, the idea of overworking as virtuous.
Puritan shit, man.
And this goes, you were saying, like, being in the club. No, you should be waking up and working. You should be working out, working on your body, working on your wellness, going to your job, sitting at your desk, working all day, working really hard so that you can succeed and make more money. This idea of hard work, like, why is LeBron James great? He worked hard. Why is Kobe great? He worked hard. Michael Jordan, they worked hard. Like, sure, all these guys work hard. They're professional athletes. They have to. But it ties into this conservative ideology. Michael Jordan was great because no one else could jump. No one else could dribble the basketball more than 2 times in a row without bouncing it off their knee. No one else could release a shot within a foot and a half of his release point.
Hey, man, he took no days off from the poker table. Like, the dude pulled all-nighters before playoff games and was still undisputed third best player of all time.
I mean, he didn't like work out until his like 7th year in the NBA or something.
Yeah. And like, why do we watch a game on Friday last night and Richard Jefferson's just like, you got to put in that extra work, man? Julius Randle, like, he took Kobe's advice and that's why he's great now. I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily it. He seems like a really talented player who is playing the most minutes out of anyone in the NBA, and he just got better. It could be a little of everything, right? And I think
I believe that you can self-improve. It can happen. It's totally possible. I'm not arguing against self-improvement.
Yeah.
I'm saying the messaging of everything is attributable to hard work is something you would say if you were like born into wealth, because you want people to believe that you have earned things that you have not, but you also want people to be happy and with their lot in life and attribute it to whether or not they'd worked hard enough.
Right. And this is like, I think we're seeing this debate happen now with like the idea of freedom and freedom of speech. Like, I think the country was based off of a revolt, right, over taxes and getting what we deserve based off of how hard we worked, and being in a disagreement with the person who oversees the value of what you do. And you watch the news and it's just like this trash argument of like, sure, you want us to cover our faces during a pandemic, but doesn't that restrict our rights as Americans? And I'm like, if you're reading it literally, sure. But like, it's funny to pick that thing out, right?
People love the wrong fights. Love it. Love it. This applies to everything. People really enjoy sinking their teeth into the exact wrong debate.
I mean, this is like a human thing forever, right? Like, we're just arguing about stuff.
There was a scientific I guess it was an article, a piece. I read it recently. I think it was new research, or maybe it was referencing older, findings. But they said that, once you've kind of established a side in an argument, you literally get a jolt of adrenaline when you see evidence that you were right.
Confirmation bias.
And it's that, but it's actual, like, physical endomorphins. That if we're arguing and I'm saying Keith Van Horn is the GOAT and you're saying I disagree, he is the GOAT.
The horny goat. Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, I just saw a clip of him dunking on Tim Duncan. I'm like, hey, a little spike, a little burst, a little pop. And
right.
It's actually physical. So when people take sides on debates, whether it's politics or sports or arguing about bans, that when they see something that confirms that position they've staked out, it's actually like a little drug.
It's like me at Clandestino at 9:30 p.m. and that jungle music hits. I'm like, okay, I know in theory this is the best music possible, but I feel it coursing through my blood.
But after reading that article, I was like, oh, of course, this is why the boomers will never stop. Because they've decided their belief system. They will never vary from it. And even if they start getting persuaded the other direction, they'll get that piece of evidence. And it's just that needle to the vein. And they're like, I'm back. Shoot a corner three. Barbecue. Get the tongs.
Yeah. Like there's all this, really politicized arguing in politics right now without like a maniac in the White House. And I find it to be comforting. And we always talk about this, but like, you guys figure it out. You guys like, this is annoying. Like the idea of herd immunity is complicated for people and you're arguing back and forth. Figure it out because you guys have your predisposed talking points, right? And this is why I always bring up like, not, it's just his name, but Ben Simmons. People just know what to do when his name comes up. They don't actually like care or look, and I love people who change their minds. I love people who like, unfortunately for that word, in the middle of stuff, being like, there's valid points everywhere here. You guys have to figure it out. Because if I was left in charge, it would just be like a cacophony of like everything, right?
What were you mentioning about the WeWork doc? Sorry, I took it another direction. We were talking about like corporate culture, but where did you want to go with that?
I have a really annoying take about that, surprisingly. My first annoying take ever. But I've discussed this before, I think, when we were talking about the Fyre Fest, the two amazing documentaries. And they're all culty and they're all interesting. And WeWork definitely... That documentary was okay, but, Adam Newman is kind of an interesting guy to me. So my annoying take is he is a scammer. I love scammers. He is somebody who had, I think, an idea he believed in, which is like socialism, communism, like redefining the way we spend our hours in the day. And it ends up being like kind of a real estate scam. Mm-hmm. But I really like people like him. I mean, don't get tricked by the scammer, right? Like, if you get tricked by him, that's a whole different story. But I like people who swing big, and we can easily mock him for days because he comes across really poorly in that documentary on our iPhones by somebody who like kind of sounds the same but was as successful on a Chrome browser by a bunch of Google guys who sound ridiculous at one point. So it's like a personnel thing to me, and I think my hot take is the world benefits from people like him in success and failure.
As someone who has just recently railed against the value of hard work, I also have mixed feelings about scammers. I like Joanne the Scammer. I felt like scamming had its moment a few years ago.
Oh, just one moment?
credit card scammers.
Uh-huh.
My taste for the scammer has soured.
Rest in peace, Bernie Madoff.
Yeah,
Ponzi Wells.
no. I liked the idea of the scammer for a little while there because we know the system is rigged and unfair. At this point, I'm like, you know what? If you are this guy from WeWork, you're just contributing to the garbage. You're making things worse. You're perpetuating this like trash wealth culture. And I know what you mean. Like, I respect it. You just pulled off some shit and you got rich. But I'm like, that's kind of what everybody is doing, whether it's a scam or not, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm, like
Yeah.
yes, he is a scammer. And yes, there is an interesting component to someone who becomes incredibly wealthy while not deserving to in some ways. But it's kind of the same as if he had a product that worked. It's all the same shit in some ways.
Deserving what you get is something I'll never figure out. And that's kind of where we're talking about, like, the Puritans and hard work and taxes. I'm like, I'm not a historian by any means, but I can't pick out a time in history where people got what they thought they deserved. And, like, I think that's a problem with framing something like WeWork, which is that I agree with you. Like, you could read it as something like this whole thing was bad. Although I can name like a dozen of our friends who had WeWork desks who liked them for like 4 years and then bailed, due to circumstances. Like, it was a thing that people used, and it soured on him. In the documentary, you can see where it sours on him, and he kind of scrambles and kind of loses his vision, whatever that like may have been. But his background growing up in a socialist society and him just having this idea and everything getting in the way and just spiraling into like a disaster.
I guess for me, it's that I don't hold him any better or any worse than another entrepreneur. And I've just soured on that general concept. I want people to be successful. That's great. But like, I don't look at the idea of someone starting a business and getting fabulously rich off of it as being particularly noble. Like, again, I want everyone to succeed. It's fine. Like, live your dream. But someone who invents a product and makes $1 billion, yes, that's useful. That's cool. But I don't actually view them that differently from a scammer. They're all kind of in the same game.
Well, I think it's important to take money out of this equation. I mean, there's a whole story with you can write a book about the money that goes on with this. I forget what vaccine it was. I think it was polio. The guy who found the cure for polio, and someone was like, you could be the richest man on the planet. And he just decided not to take the money. And the WeWork thing was interesting to me because his idea, Adam Newman's idea, was the opposite. And he ends up being whatever. I don't care about hypocrisy that much because I can't, because if you look for it, you're going to dig up more of it, and it's just endless. But, they frame his weakness as someone who couldn't see his own reflection, and as like a Greek tragedy or whatever, and I get that. But the interesting part to me of WeWork was it tried to fly in the face of what you're talking about, and it didn't quite get there because its leader, I'm partial to good leadership, was incomplete.
I'm kind of think that, like, culturally, we're talking about all the same things, right? This idea of hard work, this idea of being a self-made man or woman, but of making tons of money and being like a success story. I'm just weary of it. It falls into the same category to me as like every cop show is a procedural showing that cops are good, and in the ones where they are nefarious, it's always for a greater cause or the bad apple, etc. It's like just these cultural waves, the socializing of like the brains of Americans into hard work, into venture capitalists are good. They are good. Right. Fuck them. No, they're not. They're not good. Just cops. No, they're not good. I'm talking about kind of we don't have a subtlety to addressing these kind of ideas. It's all just sort of the lionization of the working billionaire. How cool is that? This guy who made $1 billion, drives himself to work and still logs big hours or whatever.
That's what. That's why. Yeah, I mean, I hear you, and that's why I think with this kind of discussion, then you could take the idea of money out of it because there's social scamming, there's intellectual scamming, there's all sorts of scamming, and scamming is a state of mind. But like, I think the way people achieve things when you say good or bad, it's like we're getting back into the pitchfork thing, right? It's like, well, are you going to end up in the middle of the earth surrounded by a red dude in a pitchfork or in the clouds with some bearded dude in sandals? I'm like, I have a tough time figuring out what means success and what doesn't. And that may sound hokey, but like, I'm not sure making money is necessarily what everyone wants. And how much money are we talking about, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly kind of where I'm at with this, right? I think it's that when you look at the people who have incredible power in our country, the power to change politics, the power to dictate policy, the power to change cities, like literally mutate the places that we live via their hand. It's all the same kind of people. It's fucking billionaires. It's guys, it's men who have made money as businessmen or in real estate or in finance. There aren't teachers or social workers or barbers or grocery clerks who have this oversized impact on how our society, our cities, our towns, our country, our world looks. It's all the same kind of people. If there was like, oh, this guy over here, he's the best garbage man out. He's got $1 billion. He is. What this garbage man says goes. No, it's all people in the same realm. Like the reward for being super rich is only through extreme capitalism for the most part. It's only from making money off of other people. And then it opens the door to controlling our society in general and shaping the boundaries of our world. Not into it. I don't love it.
I mean, this is the progressive.
Let a bus
playbook,
driver,
right?
let a bus driver get out there and say, all right, I'm going to make some decisions on how things go down because this means something to me versus the same 10, 20, 100 people who have just dictated how everyone has lived for fucking a century.
Listen, Shake Milton should be coach player for sure. You know what? Anthony Tolliver should be Doc's coach, right?
Like I say, give Anthony Tolliver some power. Give him some clout.
Yeah, there's no reason Keith Van Horn shouldn't tell other players to hit Horntown instead of the club.
But it's like, why did this? Okay, the Mercer family, they get to have a big say in things. Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
I think, like, I don't know, the power dynamics throughout history is really interesting, especially as I'm watching like the royal funeral. It's just like, but I think in America, it's hard for me to say everyone's the same who has money because I just don't believe it's true. Like, you can pick any two rich people out of a hat and they're wildly different, I think. The only thing they have in common is what we don't have, which is wealth.
I'm talking specifically about billionaires. They are people who made their money in business. They may not all be the same, but they're all from the same group. That was kind of what I was getting at. When you look at the people who have the most power and the most wealth, they are all from the same industry, more or less.
I mean, Mark Cuban's different than pick another billionaire, right? I think that's like...
But like, who cares? They're all from the same group. It's not like Mark Cuban was a public school teacher who has the same sway and clout. He's a guy who's a tech entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And then what about Bill Gates? Well, he's a tech entrepreneur. What about Zuck? He's a tech entrepreneur. Okay, what about Donald Sterling? He was a real estate entrepreneur.
Okay, yeah, I hear that. And I think when I get into trouble is like, if I accept the term like tech entrepreneur, it's too vague. When I accept something like entrepreneur, it's too vague. That's like saying like, oh, you're a Sixers fan? You enjoy losing. It's like, well, no. It's like, yeah, all you guys, Sixers fans, you guys into the process, it worked. You guys enjoy losing unethical. Like, Absolutely not, right? Or maybe like you're a sports fan, so therefore you guys argue and are totalitarians. And I'm like, I don't think that's true either.
But that's kind of besides the point, though, because they're all from the same group.
So are sports
They may be
fans,
different
right?
people, but I'm saying the wealthiest and most powerful people in America all come from the same industries. Tech entrepreneurs,
Wait,
like
do they?
inherited money.
No, but what about like oil, and what about like Kraft, and what about
What
Nestle?
craft? What craft?
Oh, like the brand Kraft.
Yeah, they're entrepreneurs. That's exactly what I'm saying. They own companies. They're all the same.
What about entrepreneurship turns you off?
I don't have a problem with people starting a company. I'm saying it being viewed wholly as virtuous is just nonsensical.
But no one's doing that, right? Like
They
to
do
the
constantly.
opposite. I mean, I think the progressive playbook is entrepreneurship is bad, right?
My point is that the only people who end up with oversized power and wealth are people who earn it through capitalism or through inherited wealth, which is via capitalism.
But Bernie Sanders is incredibly powerful.
But he's in government.
Yeah, but we're talking about you're talking about lawmaking, right? Like people with
He's in
decision-making
government.
power.
That's his job.
Okay, I'm confused. So all the other people in government, it's their job too, right?
Well, we're not talking about government. We're talking about literal billionaires. I mean, some of them get into government.
For sure. I mean, most of them do, in one way or another.
I'm just saying, if you had the most powerful people in the world or America were coming from various groups, I think you'd have a lot more empathy. You'd have a lot more humanity. You would be less concerned with the interests of people who are literally in the business of making billions of dollars. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I wonder something. I take the bus a lot, and when you say like bus drivers should have as much say as anyone, it makes sense to me. But I'm not sure they're better people than someone who makes more money than them. Like I don't
think
know.
they're better people. No one is saying this. No one is saying this is not about being a better person. It's about the interests. The interests of a bus driver are different from the interests of the
Are you sure?
fraction of the 1%.
Are you sure?
Yes,
Like,
I'm 100% sure.
how can you be? Like, how would you know the motivations of everybody like that just based off of their social rank?
His interests are,
Like, would they turn down a winning lotto ticket?
that's not a point.
Okay.
His interests are not that, like, yeah, he wants to be rich. His interests are, he doesn't care about tax breaks and tax shelters for huge corporations.
How would
he
we know? Right? Like, I think they would jump on this pod and have many thoughts on that.
I'm sure, man. Yes, I'm sure the interests of Mark Cuban and a bus driver really dovetail. I'm sure.
You don't think a bus driver has opinions about corporate tax breaks?
I'm sure he does. I'm sure
He definitely do.
absolutely does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm saying, if you look at billionaires, they are running the country and they have destroyed America. Look at Andrew Yang, man. His first word in his bio on Twitter is entrepreneur. Like, you're a fucking loser, dude.
I mean, we can talk about Yang when it gets closer to the mayoral.
I mean, I don't even have Yang shit. I'm saying it's
You
just
brought him
loser
up.
shit. It's just loser shit.
That's weird. I mean, okay. I mean, I don't feel that way about.
That's the first word. He describes himself as an entrepreneur. Like, fucking loser.
Wow. Okay, fine. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to talk to a Red Sox fan when they're a Red Sox fan, right? And like, these are ideas that you're talking about that a lot of people have, and someone like Andrew Yang gets. What do you get stressed about this week? He's leading in the polls like pretty easily, and it turns out like the fear that we had with someone like Joe Biden, or the fear during the election was progressives were going to turn off the voting base of what Joe Biden wanted. It turned out to be okay, I think, but it leaves to be determined. We could still see in the future what a handful of people on Twitter who are angry at someone like Andrew Yang or anybody. I'd rather pick someone who's white because it makes better sense to me, and it's not as complicated. But I think it might help him, and I think someone like Andrew Yang can use the response that he gets on Twitter to establish a really sizable lead for like not doing that much.
Yeah, I don't really think Yang is going to lose this election because
He might.
I don't think there's a coherent opposition to him that lends itself to one candidate yet. There's still like 10 weeks or something.
There's time, and there's a lot of work to be done, I think, and I don't think New Yorkers care that much about this. We do, but we don't, right?
Also, New Yorkers are pretty accustomed to disliking their mayor.
Oh, it's a tradition, right? I mean, clowning the mayor. Like, if Scott Stringer gets his hands on that title, like, get ready for the Scott Stringer jokes, right?
I mean, my thing with Yang, without even going into all the recent stuff with him, is just that his actual politics, what he actually believes, are kind of hard to discern because he's now being corralled by Bloomberg people, Liz Smith, the Tusk. Like he's got the basically neoliberal hyper corporate backing behind him. So when his veil sort of slips and he says things that he actually believes, you're kind of like, whoa. And then he has to kind of walk it back. Like he's in an odd position where he's not running necessarily as the kind of, hey, I've got a bunch of ideas and things like that as they did before. He's kind of being, I guess, shielded is the wrong word, but they have a lead and like they have to sort of protect it. So he's kind of become a very mainstream candidate, but they're keeping the sort of folksiness that has appealed to him. And I think it's going to be kind of tricky to beat that.
Yeah, I think he's running a pretty flawless campaign so far for mayor. All of his policies are on his website, as they've always been. He's a big fan of doing that. He's like, it's all on my website. And he does talk about it, but it's not the interesting stuff. And, we can talk about policy versus politics all the time. I think the vitriol that comes with Yang on Twitter is super funny, and I'm here for jokes, but it helps him in the end. And I think it is something that he's probably aware of. I wish he wasn't an Asian man because that throws a really interesting wrinkle into the whole thing. And it takes a tone which isn't like fantastic, I think.
I mean, he showed up at a Black Lives Matter rally the other day and he got like yelled at and he had to like ride off on his bike.
I mean,
I'm like, this doesn't hurt or help him necessarily, but it also doesn't really call attention to his, in my opinion, relative silence over the last summer on this topic either. But it kind of makes him sympathetic in some ways.
This works.
Why were they yelling at him? He showed up to support them. And I'm like, the thing is, if you go back and you look at like his Instagram from, last summer, he wasn't out in the streets in New York. Yeah. There's like one photo and it's like blurry and it says a vigil. Like he was not calling for defunding the police. He's someone who's like, let's send more cops to neighborhoods. And that's why they yelled at him, because he's saying the response to attacks on Asians is like more cops. So I get why people are hostile to him. But like,
certain people, right? Because the New York death rate has like doubled since 2006, I believe. It's like the highest it's ever been. So most people are like, can we stop killing each other? And there's certain people who like defund the police. And I think that's really interesting.
What do you mean by death rate?
I think it has there's the biggest spike in murders since 2006 this year for a number of reasons, right? Like it's a whole cacophony of reasons. New York Post, whatever, I read it there. But it is something that's happening in the city, and a lot of people think about different ways to frame it, right? And I think when Bernie ran the primary against Biden and Elizabeth Warren, and we had those kind of micro debates about the politics within the party, it was introduced that the idea that the harder the Bernie supporters went would help galvanize people in support of Biden. And it's hard to really parse that, but it kind of was a concept that was acceptable, and it was hard to disprove.
I mean, I think that the criticism of Yang's policies is valid, and the criticism of him leaving New York is valid.
But why do we care about that? Like, I just don't really.
I mean, him leaving New York is totally disqualifying. Like, it's just not even a question. And that
He
has
doesn't
nothing to do
even
with Yang.
have to live here. I just don't care about those
I
qualifications.
know you don't care about those things. You're an anti-authenticity guy. I'm saying I think it. We're like just revisiting Yang debates. I'm saying I just think that's totally disqualifying, and I would say that about any candidate. That's not even something that is like Yang related, because I said that, remember, on this very pod, months ago, before I'd really kind of gotten more into his politics and found them kind of reprehensible.
That's when you supported Scott Stringer on the record.
Stringer's fine. I don't like him too much. He's fine.
He's an Upper East Side guy, and why not?
I gave some money to Diane Morales.
Yeah, she is the one that's polling okay. Everyone else is not polling. I mean,
McGuire's terrible.
Yeah.
Adams will get some votes, but I'm not a fan of him, and he's a cop.
Yeah.
I mean, his quotes the other day when he was going after Yang were just like, "We don't need someone who's, upstate. We need someone who's down here, when children are being murdered." I'm like, oh, God.
I mean, it's like not a high quality of politician for mayor.
No.
I mean, Mayor Quimby is a trope for a reason, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm content to give a couple $100 to Morales and be like, all right, my soul is clean.
Cleanse that with a couple hundos, a couple cryptos. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty fascinated in it. It does make me feel gross a little bit on Twitter, but it's also, if you have a good joke, I really appreciate a good joke at anyone's defense. But sometimes the jokes are bad, and I'm like, ooh, it's tough. But again, like, it would help if he wasn't an Asian man, I think.
No, I get it, and that makes it a different argument for everyone, but especially for you. Your name is
for sure.
Andrew. You're an Asian man. You live in New York City.
I want James Dolan to pay property tax.
I'm saying,
McGuire does not.
you love tech billionaires like him.
I mean, it's...
You tweet at Elon Musk constantly like Yang.
Listen, pick up our new socks at Shopify off of our Twitter handle. I mean, I'm not scared. Well, let me phrase that. I think tech is just here, and fighting it is it's an argument that is like fighting a reality, and the quicker we come to an understanding of how to use this new tool well, is the quicker our lives will get better. And I like politicians who are tech literate. I do, because it's just a part of our lives. The whole vaccine rollout is a technological phenomenon.
I think being tech literate and enthusiastic about technology are very different from being a tech fetishist or a tech cheerleader or someone who believes that
but
tech
they could happen at the
is
same
morally like superior or because it's new.
Tech is not it's not a morality issue. It's an air
agree.
or gravity issue, right? This vaccine rollout is pretty successful in America, and it's a tech rollout, right? A lot of it happened online. A lot of it was the people trying to figure out how to get this shot into arms, and the quickest way was like these websites that you log into, right?
I mean, I just can't accept that being skeptical of tech billionaires who have proven to be deeply immoral human beings, have had horrible consequences for our country and this planet, is being like a Luddite. I just don't think those things are the same.
I don't believe in the concept of Ludditism. I just believe in the concept of like attention span. And people claim it's like a political stance, a socio-political stance, when they just aren't interested. I don't really fault my friends who don't have, Facebook accounts. I don't have one. I don't fault my friends who don't have cell phones. They're not Luddites. They're just not interested.
Well, I'm saying thinking that Amazon is a has produced a negative impact on America does not make you anti-tech.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon is so tricky, right? Because it's such like a poorly run thing that helps. I mean, in a pandemic, they profited too much on during our thing, but they helped us, right? Because we can get everything. The one thing we didn't want to do in a pandemic was go out there and like transmit the disease. So people started ordering things online, which is what we want, right? Whether that source was run perfectly, we have to figure out now and constantly. But during a pandemic, like what do we need? It's like for things to show up without human contact, right? And
I don't know. I think I understand what you're saying, but I also think you don't need Amazon to do that.
no, you don't. But they are.
You could have ordered and it would have been mailed to you like it has been in the United States, going back to like what, hundreds of years ago.
You mean getting a money order and waiting 6 to 8 weeks?
Well, that's what I'm saying. But Amazon didn't invent like ordering shit.
Oh, but Amazon invented stuff like the Golden State Warriors didn't invent 3-pointers, but they were good.
Oh, Amazon is good. They're a giant vampire squid. They couldn't not be good at it.
I mean,
they're clearly very good at getting a product into your hands. Like they can do it in a day. They are excellent at it. Yes, for sure.
I mean, like when our iPhones crash, we are infuriated, right? And they don't crash that much anymore because Apple has gotten better at it. And I think I have an iPhone, and they are the ones who were doing bad stuff, and they've paid their fines and all that hand slapping. But like, as long as it works for the individual, like we're willing to kind of frame it in any way, like what you said earlier about like framing stuff to fit our endorphin narrative, right?
Yeah, and also, you look at, I think something like Seamless is a great example where, we're just doing the hits. We're playing the oldies,
Yeah.
but like, you don't need them. You don't need that. They're just the white pages, and yes, it is updated. Excuse me, the yellow pages. It's updated for today, the digital era. But for those of our listeners who don't have Gen X tranquility or have never seen the yellow pages, it's a thick book, and you flip through it and you want pizza. And there's a list of all the pizza places, and you can see some of them have bigger ads than others. Some of them have little listings. You could see where they were located. And, order your pie. That's where you would get the number from if you didn't have it written down somewhere.
Which was a deeply flawed system, right? Because you had
Of
to
course.
pay to get in, and it was curated by a gatekeeper.
Well, it wasn't really curated by a gatekeeper.
Yeah, I mean, if they didn't want to run your ad, they didn't have to.
Well, they would list your phone number, and then if you wanted an ad, you paid more money for it. Sure. So my thing is, if you just made, like Seamless, you could have bigger ads, something like that. But they take a cut. They take 30% of everything that you sell through them. That's very different from a Yellow Pages, where you're paying a one-time fee. And I know there are a few.
And that was a for-profit company that tried to do this too, but they didn't have the infrastructure, so their online presence kind of dwindled.
Yeah, so all my point was just going back to this is like, no one really has to use Seamless, but we all justify it because it's easy. Oh, they have my credit card information. I can sort by Thai food. Well, yeah, it's easy.
Or it
So
works well, right?
But this is going back to what you were saying, that we contribute to things that we probably don't like on like a casual basis daily.
Wait, what did I say about that? Like, I've never used Seamless, but I live in New York City, so I don't get delivery. I do think it's a good thing. I mean, I like to hear my announcers. Like, I want them to, like, if I don't want to listen to Richard Jefferson, I would love a choice. And if it costs $5, I might listen to Mike Breen. Like, I certainly would rather tune into a stable ESPN feed of a game or MSG feed than like a bootleg Russian one that kind of drops out. Like, am I contributing to the wealth of James Dolan? Probably. Like, I certainly buy tickets to go to games. I'd rather see a game in person than on TV.
Of course. And look, I'm not talking about all these minor things. They do add up for sure. But I'm not talking about
his wealth that way, right?
But I'm not talking about small stuff, right? I'm talking about the things that are preventable. Like, yes, you could say, I'm never going to go to a Knicks game because I don't want
and there's people
dollar
who do
of my
that.
money going to Dolan. No,
that's a
I'm
Twitter
saying,
thing.
I get that.
Yeah.
And maybe you could make an argument and say that because of Dolan's politics and his power in New York, that if everybody did that, you could sort of just like exercise Dolan's might. I don't know. Maybe.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like,
No,
someone could
take is
put
out
together that take, sure.
For sure.
But like, it's also undeniable though that if everyone said, I'm going to stop using Amazon because it's convenient, I'm just going to stop, they would cease to have any power whatsoever. It is totally within the realm of possibility that people could say, you know what? Amazon's illegal in New York City. Sorry. You want to get some paper towels? Walk up to the bodega. You can call a bodega. You can get them to bring it over. You want to order some food? Okay, seamless. You're out of here. Like, totally within the realm of possibility. You could do it. We make decisions on what should be allowed and not allowed in our cities, in our towns, in our villages, in our houses, all the time. We do it constantly. Fireworks, not allowed in New York City. Guns, not allowed in New York City. You can't buy them. Can't buy them. Until recently, or even as of right now, you can't buy marijuana. Like, we don't have a Walmart in New York City. People didn't want it. You could make these decisions and say, let's protect our people from these kind of companies that are damaging, people within a certain locality, but we don't think like that.
De Blasio tried, remember, with Uber.
Mm-hmm.
He was just like, want to limit Uber cars. And then immediately everyone's like, first, that's unconstitutional if we care about the Constitution. Second, we
it's
love
not
Uber.
unconstitutional. It's not freedom of speech.
Limiting business practice, you have to look closely at that. I don't think the success of a company should be capped if we're talking about the Constitution, right?
I'm saying people do it all the time. You can't sell guns in New York.
Yeah, and I think that's not a casual discussion about guns. I think that's a really intense discussion.
Well, we're certainly not going to agree here then, because I think communities have every right to decide what sort of products are able to be and what sort of companies are able to operate. Otherwise, you're saying just there's no restriction at all?
What if we
just
want guns?
Anyone can sell.
But it just seems like what you personally want is what's ethical, right? And like the gun debate, I think is clear for both of us. I don't care about.
I guess what I'm saying is, if you're going to do the slippery slope, routine, song and dance,
or not totalitarian.
Are you saying that everything should be available all the time to everyone in every place?
It's not quite a slippery slope, but it's less of a totalitarian rule, right? Like where it is decided by a few people how someone should behave, rather than seeing what coincides with, if we agree to the premise of our country, vaguely, right? The Constitution is something I really love. It's imperfect, as we all know.
I have no idea why you keep bringing in the Constitution into saying that.
Because taking away someone's right to conduct business is difficult,
but that's not Constitution. That's not in there.
Freedom to do that kind of stuff is indeed like written into the Constitution.
Where? I could be wrong, but what part? Freedom to conduct business? Where's that in the Constitution? I literally don't know. There may be that exact phrase. I'm saying if we're talking about the First Amendment, it's definitely not one of them.
It's a capitalist society in which our country is and isn't. Like, of course, you can like pick point, like we pay taxes. That's not capitalist, But in a capitalist society that was in the vision of the founders of the country, whatever, originalists, whatever, I think, there's antitrust laws. There's laws to prevent a kind of a single-minded behavior. And I think what you're suggesting is more of like a China kind of situation where it's just like Jack Ma has too much power. We need to strip him of it, which happened. Right?
There's a deep history in America of doing exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm not saying there's not examples, but we should be careful. Like, I think, Mark Cuban came out against the Clippers making Donald Sterling sell the team, and he was not pro Sterling at all.
Let me ask you this. Is there any situation, if you were in charge, any situation,
which I wouldn't want to be, but yeah.
But you are in this situation. You are.
Okay.
Because I've already said what I would do if I was in charge. Is there any situation
rule with an iron fist
in which you? No, I would make it a utopia for all of the citizens. It would be a beautiful place, birds chirping daily. In your world,
little red books.
In this hyper capitalistic hellscape. Is there
editorializing the question? Nice. No, classic Ben move.
No, I'm just setting the stage.
Oh, you're setting the stage. Cool. I love when you set the stage.
No, my question here for you.
Cool. Okay, we're in Horntown. Go on.
My version of Horntown is very different from yours.
It's so sexy.
It sells sex, but it's not sexy.
Oh, that sounds like paradise.
Okay. In your Horntown, are there any conditions whatsoever that you can name right now on which you would bust up a company?
Yeah, the anti-monopoly stuff. Like, I think Apple was rightfully sussed out and punished, right? You don't have to destroy that company, but when you run a monopoly like Con Ed in New York, that was infuriating, for sure.
So you would not agree that Amazon has a monopoly right now?
I never said that, but Amazon needs to be regulated, right? And Bezos needs to pay taxes instead of zero taxes. I'm all for these progressive ideas. It just has to happen. But I don't believe in getting rid of Amazon. So
what about child labor laws? Aren't they infringing on First Amendment rights to put children to work?
Well, if it's a law, like, you cannot kill somebody. Murder is not freedom of expression, right? So, like, you're getting a little didactic about this.
I thought Horntown was a little grimier, I gotta say. I thought it would be like little children scaffolding buildings, going down chimney flues.
Hey, you're the one
Dickensian Horntown.
You're the one who wants unsexiness everywhere. You're Jeff Teague party, Boston Teague party.
I'm glad we got all this sorted out. We really learned some new things about each other.
I know. This is a cookies theme, but
look, if you don't get a pod in 2 weeks, we're gonna revisit some things.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of has a lot to do. Maybe it ties into. Have you been following these people who are like, well, the J&J vaccine, right? There's an issue with it, and there is pushback against the Pfizer vaccine now. Now you may need a third shot, and there's all these questions arising on Twitter about, like, what is the motivation of Pfizer? Like, are they going to make this a monthly subscription? Is this just like capitalist grab? And I'm like, maybe so, but is the flu vaccine a capitalist grab? Like, probably, if you did some research, right? It's like someone got rich off the flu vaccine or the delivery of it. And it leads me to the place I love to reside, which is like the way people look at numbers, and whether that be about a vaccine efficiency, whether that be about how much money someone makes, or how many people get it, or what herd immunity actually means, right? And it seems like we're never on the same page.
I'm going to resist.
No.
Going back. No, I'm going to resist going back into the same conversation we were just having.
Yeah.
There was a good article about how Bill Gates was kind of responsible for withholding the vaccine intellectual property from the rest of the world, and like how stingy he is when he has basically vaccine ID. And
QAnon hates Bill Gates for sure.
But this kind of goes into some of the stuff that we're talking about. Again, I'm not going back into vilifying tech villains. but read the article. It's in like the Atlantic or something.
Was it on like the Daily Stormer?
It's not. No, it's true. He didn't allow it out. But the thing with and this isn't about him putting microchips into us. It's just about like people having access to the the secret sauce.
What's going on in Canada?
Okay, yeah, that's what like the issue there is that they've had Doug Ford running the city.
Yeah.
Or running Ontario, I guess. And he's really bad at this.
Yo, they're in trouble up there. It's wild.
They just put in a stay-at-home order.
It's crazy.
Bonkers.
Yo, no country has done this well except for Taiwan. But like that's a small island. Germany is getting roughed up, man.
I don't know what's going on with the rest of Canada. I just know Ontario is in absolute shambles.
I believe the country itself, last time I checked, they were at a 15% vaccination level for adults, which is like very low. And there is unrest throughout Canada.
I mean, so what you were talking about before with like, concern about blood clots and the Johnson & Johnson pharmaceuticals. It's like, when you looked at the actual numbers, it was like
1 in 200,000 for the target risk group. Which
it was less than like significantly less than birth control pills or other medicines.
We're driving. Yeah, the success of these vaccines are incredible. They're just incredible, like human accomplishments, to be honest. The fact that we got them this quickly within a year is just amazing. And I was thinking about free throw percentage in basketball, right? Like Steve Nash, one of the best free throw shooters ever. I believe he was like over 90%. And when he misses a shot in the playoffs, everyone's like, what the hell? I thought he was good at this. I'm like, well, he misses 1 out of 10 shots, which makes him the best of all time.
No, exactly. And when there is an incentivized clickbait nature to a lot of the coverage where it says, this man got COVID after getting both shots. What? And it's like New York Post headline. Like, what are you doing exactly over here?
I know. It's
like, what's the upside? You're
maybe
trying to get people not to take the vaccine? But this is what we knew. We knew that some people would still get it, and he's not going to be hospitalized. We knew that there was a small percentage of people who might still get sick, that an 80-year-old woman could still die of COVID after getting the shot because she's old and frail. Like we know that there are exceptions to these percentages. That's always been baked in. When we first heard about the vaccines, it was always, what's the percentage?
95, 94, right? Pfizer, Moderna. That means like
from the day one, for real vaccine day ones, it was always, what's the percentage?
I know, and I would not be comfortable betting my life on 5%, but I'll take it. And that's what I mean by like it's confusing with numbers. And recently Nate Silver got clowned because he had to take about guns. Oh no, he had to take about the vaccine, right? And it goes back to his predictions about the Trump election. People still upset about that because they hate Trump. But I always go back to like our bias that goes into reading a simple thing like percentages. It's not even advanced metrics. It's just like a division, a mathematical division, and a human division. But I think like
cell division.
Yeah.
And your mRNA.
Dude, off topic, but unfortunately, I've been listening to Joy Division a lot lately. I don't know what's happening to my brain. Another topic for another time. I'm not proud of this, but good songs. I think like the 95% effectiveness of a Pfizer shot is just incredible. But I like your point about this endorphin kick. If you were looking for a reason to poke holes in liberal policy, here's your chance, because there's 5% of the people it won't be as simple.
I'm not sure how we're supposed to proceed, like as a globe, as a country, and what you were saying before, like, is this going to be annual? Is this going to be every 6 months? Is this just for the rest of our lives? Like,
Yeah.
Might be. When you look around and see, like, okay, it's a double mutant strain ravaging through India.
Horrible name for something really scary. Like double mutant, no.
Double mutant energy. But and then you look at countries in the world that are impoverished, and there's like not one person in the country who's gotten a vaccine shot yet. Like zero, literally zero. They just don't have a vaccine. None.
It's crazy.
And then you look at the percentage of like white males in America who aren't going to get the vaccine.
Yeah.
Like, how do you ever get rid of this? And with that in mind, do you just kind of have to throw caution to the wind after you've gotten the shot? Like, what are we going to do? Are we supposed to just not eat in a restaurant even after you're getting the vaccine for the next 2 years? Because the shit's not going to disappear. It's going to be around. People aren't going to get the shot. They're going to keep getting it. It's going to keep mutating and sitting around. I feel like at some point you just have to say, I'm vaccinated, fuck it.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know me, like this is where I fall back on, like, I think you have to equate human happiness into life and safety is paramount. I think living is the goal, but we have to also do stuff. And yeah, to your point, I don't know if we're ever going to get to herd immunity, and herd immunity is kind of a dark idea. That means there has been enough that went wrong for it to go right. I really, it's
but also because that you can eventually get it again, or because it'll mutate, we can never actually get to herd immunity.
Yeah, I think so. And
I don't know.
Whatever you think herd immunity is, right? Because this is the debate, right? What point? I mean, your boy Jim Jordan, I think that's his name, is just like, give me a number. What percentage do we have to get to be safe? And Fauci's just like, I don't know. Like, that's a very relative idea.
Well, I guess the thought of herd immunity is just that the virus will have nowhere to go, right? That you have so many people who've already had it, so it has fewer targets, and then people are vaccinated, so they can't get it. So the virus just stops.
But yeah, I agree. But herd immunity means that there's error. It's not an airtight box. Like, there is going to be 1 or 2 people who die from COVID if we establish herd immunity. At that point, it's going to be like, why was he the 1%, right?
Right. And I'm kind of thinking, well, if you have antibodies for 6 to 9 months, allegedly, well, now we're going to start having the people who got it back in March, as far as that first spike goes, getting it again. So like, oh fuck, okay, they got immunity a second time. I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's a natural endpoint for how this is eradicated in the way that, say, like polio was.
Yeah, it's tricky. I don't know. This is like a dystopian science fiction writer's dream, right? The possible outcomes of this are super dark, and I have optimism. I think as this virus mutates, I think vaccines are also going to lap it again, because I don't think it's the vaccine is not static either. Like, they're still working on it 24/7. I mean, I'm encouraged by the way the country's going, but it's like, it seems painfully slow. It seems like trusting the process here is not as enjoyable when it's not like a game.
Right. I guess my point is that, like, I guess you can still exercise precautions. I just think the CDC should more or less say, hey, once you're vaccinated, like, fuck anything that moves. Go rave. Go do what you want. And, like, really sell people who are skeptical on this is your return to normalcy.
Yeah, I
don't
that.
love the vaccine passports, but, like, I'm kind of into it. I just get this vaccine to people. And I'm not even like a total vaccine believer in the way of this is totally our magic bullet. It's more that we failed so miserably at just like getting rid of it without the science that it's all we have left.
I agree.
You were totally incapable of just shutting down America for like a month and making it vanish. Could not do it.
Oh, not even close.
Couldn't do it.
I mean, I'm a double masker because someone told me, a doctor told me on TV that like wearing 2 masks helps everybody, including yourself. I'm like, that is not difficult to do. I'm just going to put another mask on because it's so fucking easy.
I mean, and we still kind of have this stigma that exists about doing things that are dangerous even after people are vaccinated. Like, is this also just going to continue forever? I mean, I don't really care either way.
Yeah.
But it's funny when you see people saying like, "Oh, well, outdoor dining, of course." Like, yeah, but you're vaccinated.
Yeah.
Like, do what you want.
Yeah.
Like,
And,
isn't that the selling point?
yeah. And it's so, I mean, we talked about this during the Gobert week, right? It's like, what kind of story do you need to tell people who are on the fence in order to push this thing forward? Because, like, I'm not really sure all of this is like black and white, but in order to persuade people is the objective. And I understand, I love people who doubt everything. And people are like, well, if I've gotten 2 vaccine shots, like, do I need to wear a mask? And I'm like, okay, I like that thinking, but just do it. But I know where you're going with this, and like, we don't get anywhere without contrarians or doubters. Like, nothing happens without those people in the room. But just wear your mask, you know, like,
That's kind of what I'm selling. Like,
Yeah.
if you get the vaccine, you don't have to wear a mask, but you might have to show ID to show you've been vaccinated. I don't know. I would never encourage more interactions between police and human beings.
Yeah,
Like, never. I would never in my life. But just that idea of like, hey, if you get vaccinated, no masks. No masks.
I don't love the vaccination card because I think it creates, and we talked about this before, a greatest hits. It creates like a class division, which I think is, I don't like badges. I don't like labeling, like, visually, or like, you know, like, I think that is really problematic, and we have to be a really like kind society to make that work. And I just don't think it is the best solution here. But like, if you were hosting a basketball game, an NBA game, let's say, in the Boogie Down Barclays, right, and you wanted everyone to be safe, like, you need to show your vaccination card, right?
I mean, I think once it is available to every person in America freely, that was a crazy stat, man. That was so depressing, where it said something. I'm just going to make up a number, so don't. The number's not that important, but it was. Let's say it was like 25%, 15%, 20%, 30%. It was a significant amount of people thought you had to pay for the vaccine, and like, it's so sad and such a testament and indictment of our medical system
Or our
like,
messaging, right?
both. That
Because
people
it is
just
free.
don't. People, it's free. That people just are so unaccustomed to being able to just get taken care of, to just walk in somewhere without having to keep in mind the financial consequences and saying, I'll risk getting this potentially fatal disease, virus, because I just can't come out of my pocket and spare a couple of $100. I'm sure it'll be expensive. It's so sad.
Yeah, and it's odd that I agree, and it's odd we always used to look to Canada being like, well, they do it right, and it was like, oh, they have their own issues. And my friends from Canada have always told me since the beginning that, like, it sucks up there. Like, if you break an ankle, it's like, oh, you can get this fixed for free. You have to wait 3 months, though. And then when you get there, like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. Like, they end up paying out of pocket for, like, the care that they want because you can't work with a broken ankle, you know? So, it, like, yo, man, like, this year...
Canada's healthcare system is just so vastly superior to ours in terms of its accessibility. I mean, I don't think anyone would say it's perfect, but... to look at like delays and, the care isn't as good. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Them not being able to get vaccines into people's arms, right? When they need it most. When it's a life or death thing, Canada, I'm sympathetic.
But why is that?
I think it's infrastructure and leadership. I think it's a big-ass country, and China has always had this issue. It's a spread-out, huge country, right? So vaccinating a lot of people in New York pushes your numbers.
So they would have this problem whether it was socialized medicine or private medicine, right?
Unless someone came up with a better solution, which I think is possible. Like, people are really angry at Trudeau now because he doesn't really have a cohesive plan. And I don't blame him because it seems difficult. Everything seems difficult. I think America should be past, what are we, 30% now? It should be like 60, but as we're finding out, there's opposition, there's pushback, there's people who don't believe in it, and like, I like to think, I'm a weirdo about this, but I like to think of like, as we move forward, not in our lifetimes, but like countries won't mean as much. Like we will all be kind of more on the same page. We will share ideas more.
But Canada's rollout issue is that they don't have a supply of vaccines.
Why not?
Well, I don't know why they didn't buy them, but they had to purchase them.
Why didn't they?
Because there's a huge demand.
Why couldn't they meet that demand? Like, like this is an endless series of whys, but like when it comes down to it and you're sitting...
Because they're produced by the U.S. And they're going to us. That's why.
No, we're shipping them out too, a lot of them. And they could have worked out a deal with the U.S. And that's why I say this is not perfect, because defending the Canadian healthcare system at every step is going to be tricky.
Well, here's a quote from an article that just came out and it's from NPR. It says Canada also has strict regulation of drug prices, so our drugs are much, much cheaper than in the U.S. and pharma companies don't like that, so they don't invest in the country.
Well, can't you broker a deal if it is a life and death situation? Like you just can't stand by your morals and be like, we will not use the draft to rebuild. I'm like, okay. Like,
so you're on the side of the COVID profiteering pharmaceutical companies here. Got it. This is Horntown.
You love
I'm saying, but that's what you're saying. Why wouldn't they get bled by pharmaceutical companies in order to get the vaccine to their people?
I think this whole episode, what I'm trying to say is there is no side here. There is no totalitarian solution for rebuilding a basketball team or doing anything in society. And to say like, how come Yang doesn't feel the way I feel? I'm like, because he doesn't. And I don't think I'm ever going to get an endorphin rush from anything, because I don't really have like a total view on
Yes, but that's
anything.
Because you're a nihilist.
Quite opposite, because I'm the whisk guy, right? And I would say totalitarianism is more nihilistic than being like, what does everyone need?
Who's totalitarian here?
You are, like you...
Me believing that you shouldn't be able to sell products from your tech leviathan in a city because it's hurting local businesses? That's a totalitarian?
Why is the word tech in there?
Because that was our discussion.
But why is... My favorite is the interns like...
What about Walmart? I don't think Walmart should be able to build a huge bunch of mega chain stores in New York City.
Why not, though? I mean...
But that's what I'm saying. You're like, why not? I think they should.
There are Walmarts here, and I don't think our city's worse off.
There are not Walmarts here.
Walgreens, my bad. But I mean, whatever. Subway sandwiches is here. Like... I don't care about McDonald's being here.
Again, you don't. But this is why we always argue on these things, because you don't care. I'm saying I think it matters. I think not having Walmart in New York City was a good thing. I think it helped smaller businesses survive. Unfortunately,
but
Walmart was also...
It's Dwayne Reed. It's not small businesses. Like Walmart is fighting with Dwayne Reed. And
I was also going to say that unfortunately Walmart was such a big target that they let Walgreens and Dwayne Reed and CVS and Rite Aid and all those companies come in and just pillage the city. So it's really more of they didn't do enough to prevent, mega chains from going throughout the city.
Steve Nash misses 1 out of 10 free throws, right?
But we know why they missed them, because they would have let Walmart in, but people didn't want it.
And when Steve Nash misses, it's like the ball comes off his hand wrong, right? 1 out of 10 times, which makes him an all-time great.
And another thing that you can read a New Yorker article about it, I'm saying you to our gentle listeners, is about these chains like Price Chopper and Dollar Store and Dollar Tree. And they are absolutely foul, and they use the same Walmart model, but they've slipped under the radar because they use different names. They're really in poor neighborhoods. You can find them in like kind of like deeper Brooklyn. They're in rural America. They're everywhere. But they've gone under the radar because like the Walton family and Walmart was such a big brand and so culturally prominent that other even worse companies have kind of slid beneath them with the exact same model, selling garbage, super cheap, big box store, and driving local businesses like into rubble.
I really like progressives. Like, I think that opinion has to be on lawmakers' floors. Like, I really think people who believe in what you're saying have to be a part of the discussion. In a moral sense, I agree. Like, it's like everyone should be happier. I'm like, I'm fucking with that, man. And everything should be fair. I'm like, I love this. But like, not to be confused with nihilism, I am more on the side of like, I need to hear everything and all the experts and make the right decision at the right time, knowing it's not going to be perfect, knowing I'm going to miss 1 out of 10 shots, because an airtight solution just doesn't exist, whether it be a vaccine, whether it be about business policy, whether it be about taxation, right? So like, when the New Yorker goes and writes about this thing, he's not like, they are right. He is saying this exists. And that's kind of where I stand with all of this. It's like an article on NPR is just like, Walgreens, they don't say Walgreens is bad. They say this is what's happening with Walgreens.
Well, I think these companies like Dollar Store and Dollar Tree are clearly bad. I mean, they are using a business model that leeches money out of, impoverished communities already. And yeah, they give you products for cheaper than someone next door could sell. So you could say, I understand why people go there, and it may have a benefit on their lives. But to act as if, I think predatory is a fair way of phrasing it, to act as if large predatory companies are somehow absolved of morality doesn't really jive with my worldview for sure. Like, we can say, yes, they just sort of exist in a spongy vacuum where there's no, there's no moral compass, that they just are there.
Or your moral compass, right? Like, because I just don't agree morally with someone from a different place. It's
sure,
just not
but I can only talk about my moral compass.
No, you could talk about a worldview for sure.
But what I'm saying is, I can say, yes, I will put myself in the position of the price chopper overlord who wants to put 7 of my stores into Brownsville, Bed-Stuy, and Flatbush, because I think there's going to be a receptive community who doesn't have a lot of money, who will like the savings on the products I sell, and that will then enrich me tremendously. And because I've used this model throughout the entire nation, in my worldview as him, sure, that's moral. I'm only speaking for my own, though.
Yeah, I mean,
of course they think it's moral because they're doing it. But so did the people selling the Sackler family, selling opioids. Did they think what they were doing was moral by some compass? Sure.
Or not. Yeah, Bernie Madoff was kind of an interesting thing, but Subway is the most fun way to think about this, right? Because they were the #1 fast food chain for a while, but they had a wrinkle in their policy that imploded the whole company, which was you could open a Subway franchise. Anybody could buy into the Subway franchise with no regional restrictions. So if there was a Subway on the corner of 2nd and 1st, someone could open a Subway on 3rd and 1st. And after a few years, they realized like this was it had a scent of a Ponzi scheme, a Bonzi Wells dunk. But
was it that they wanted the money from the franchisee?
Yeah, they wanted that,
as opposed to like continuing sales.
Yeah, and they didn't think it was going to be an issue until it was. They were just like, well, why would anyone do that? That's just bad for business, right? and Subway is still a huge company that's making tons of money and slinging tons of, unfortunately, 1-carb sandwiches, unless you consider their veggie patty full of carbs. which it probably is.
When's the last time you had a Subway sandwich?
I'm not hating on Subway, but since I haven't been out pre-COVID, I ate Subway like twice a year in a pinch. I like their veggie subs, the crunchy green peppers and like.
Yeah, I feel like in New York is a good example of a place where there's never a reason to go into a Subway.
There's good stuff everywhere.
Because like a bodega could give you an equivalent sandwich.
Yeah. But it's
like no real difference.
It's a taste thing because Subway has a definitely, for better or worse, a unique taste. And I enjoy eating for pleasure. So like sometimes I miss a Subway sandwich. I just want to try one, you know?
One of my friends used to live above a Subway.
Oh, did it stink like bread, like bad bread constantly?
Bro.
It's like sour ass bread, right?
You'd open the door to the apartment. It would just wafted throughout the entire apartment until you'd open the windows, and then it would like waft even still up. It was so crazy. Yeah. It was so crazy. The place just smelled like a Subway. And
Yeasty
Subway
boys.
had moved in after they were there. So it wasn't even something that they could have accounted for when taking the apartment.
Yeah.
Because they were there for a few years. Subway moved in, opened up, and all of a sudden it just smelled, it was like that sour, yeasty scent.
There was a building that tried to kick out a Subway because it was years ago, because the whole building, like you said, smelled like
So bad.
sourdough. And I believe the city sided with Subway. I can't remember, but
That's so gross.
I mean, you know, as a law in New York, you cannot pump out like the smell of your kitchen into the street. Like I forgot what law it is, but a kitchen can't like advertise its product by doing that. But Subway, you walk by one, it's distinct, man.
It does not seem fair that they should be able to do that. Move underneath your apartment and then just make it smell like bread. That's not cool.
It's like the Hatch Act, right? It's like, you're not allowed to do that. That's a law. And they're like, well, who's going to really enforce this?
I remember creeping along the roof of that apartment building with like a knife in my teeth.
Wait, why? Was this like a boot camp click recreation video? Like, were you trying to
I'm
do
gonna
artifacts
tell you,
video?
I'm going to tell you why. We were trying to take down entrepreneurs. That we were creeping along the roof with a knife in my teeth and cutting down this huge Subway sign, like using the knife to like saw through the ropes, just as a protest against the stench of the sandwiches.
Nice. How do you
And also, the sign I believe hung over part of their window too, just as like
Super
an extra like little middle finger from the the sandwich makers, sandwich artists. Sorry.
Oh yeah, man. They have passes too. They got certificates.
Anyway, it was nice. It felt like a little black ops operation to take down the Subway sign.
Yeah, I don't crave Subway as much, but like occasionally, like on 10th Avenue in Chelsea, like there's nothing to eat out there, and when you're finding yourself starving, I don't know, a veggie sub sounds nice. It's like $4.
Pass.
What do you enjoy? Any fast food?
No.
Mm-hmm. Did you? Well, yeah, that's fair.
You know, we could talk now about mass shootings or police murders of black people, but I feel like we've covered a lot of dystopia for the time being, and maybe we should talk about basketball for a little while.
Yeah.
I don't want people to think we've forgotten about these issues or we're minimizing them. We're just now an hour and a half into this pod, and these are things that we might talk about next episode.
Well,
but they're not being excluded because they are not important.
The horrific and ultimately the most sad part of this, what you're saying is we'll probably have to talk about this like in a week about a new thing. Like,
sure.
It fucking sucks, man.
You know, the healing of America is that our awfulness is laid bare. We just had to talk about some of the other bad things that we ran out of time to talk about some of the other really bad things.
We vibed it out.
USA, baby. So, NBA basketball is in full swing. Should we just immediately talk about, career-ending injuries? Just like keep the positive vibes flowing.
Oh, like which one?
You know what? Let's talk about LaMarcus Aldridge because it's not really sad. He was totally washed, but he also had a heart murmur, and he joined the Brooklyn Nets after being bought out by the Spurs, and he was going to have some, opportunity to shine in the playoffs, and he abruptly had to retire because he realized that he was, at risk, and I don't know if this is something that was unnoticed prior or developed. I don't know enough about it medically, but he was, a really good player for a really long time, and unlike, say, Chris Bosh, he was not someone whose career ended prematurely. He was one of the oldest players in the NBA. What are your just sort of thoughts overall on the legacy of your man, LMA?
He's awesome, man. Like, he wasn't my favorite type of player, but what a career. Borderline Hall of Famer, probably. He's in that discussion, I think. Lot of all-star kind of appearances, not much postseason success, but I believe he was on a couple of Team USAs. I may be wrong, but by all accounts, like a wonderful guy, wonderful player, and like I'm not gonna miss him at all, unfortunately, because he doesn't float my boat as a kind of player. But I miss being young, and I miss the players of our youth retiring.
So just
I'm sad about
few things about LMA, just to kind of flesh out what you said, his resume. He's a 7-time All-Star. He was All-NBA 5 times, which is even more impressive.
Incredible.
Never first team, but twice second, 3 times in the third. In terms of, like, he never really was crazy high on any particular leaderboard, but he was like a 2010 dude. Like that was kind of his thing. Yeah. I would say his legacy is really being kind of the last master of the long two.
Yeah, he's a inefficient shot god, man. And I love him because if you understandably love that shot and love the 90s, like he was proof that it could work because he was good at it.
Yeah, I would say his kind of most enduring moment was when he had been kind of consigned to the dustbin of history as a long two shooter, right in the late 2000s when the culture wars were really heating up between like mid-range defenders and the rise of the 3-ball. This is pre-Golden State, really selling it to normies and the Charles Barkleys and people like that. And this was really when people said it was still kind of believed the 3-ball was a gimmick, and that what the Rockets were doing, which looks quaint in comparison to some teams today, was a heretical approach to basketball. And the Rockets played Portland in, I want to say it was the first round of the playoffs. And this was maybe James Harden's first or second season when he was there. And LMA just went fucking bonkers in the first 2 games of that series, just drilling every mid-range jumper. And they won both those games and ended up winning the series. And I remember at the time, it was like LMA standing up as a refutation against the 3-balls, like a living, breathing rebuke to Morey ball. So that's kind of how I will remember him best, because that's what he represented. Funny part is the next few games of the series, he went cold and shot up bricks. And, wasn't particularly that good because he relies on shots that aren't great. But he was on fire those first 2 games. Respect.
Yeah, and it's funny how he's used as an example to, combat, like what you said, like Morey ball or advanced analytics. But he went to the line at a pretty decent clip and shot very well from free throw. And that is the nerd's favorite shot. So he kind of satisfied in secret the nerd palate.
And also, the true nerd is not the person who just says chuck up threes. The true nerd is it depends on who's taking them. And LaMarcus Aldridge was an excellent, fantastic shooter of long twos.
Yeah.
A LaMarcus Aldridge long two is fine.
And pretty solid defender. Aesthetically, an uninspiring kind of player, right? No one no one wanted LaMarcus shoes. I think the thing he had going for him was like Portland was cool back in the day before the ultimate tranquility took over. So the celestial seasoning was sprinkled on them. But those Portland teams were fun, and as a young player, he was exciting. And I thought he was going to develop more of a modern range, but I'm sort of glad he didn't. I don't know, like I'm happy for him.
Look,
man.
He had a really good career for a guy who lacked the most important modern skill, and like props.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was not a particularly efficient scorer because he loves mid-range jumpers. You know, as you said, he got to the foul line. He was a pretty good defender early in his career. I don't think he was a genuine superstar in some ways, like a superstar. But you look at it, he was in the low, 8, 9, 7 in points and rebounds per game.
Yeah.
Like a pretty consistently very good player who had a few great years. I thought
Oh yeah.
he had a couple
2013.
excellent seasons on the Spurs where he was just a fantastic offensive player. But he never inspired joy. He was not the Marie Kondo superstar.
He didn't spark it. Yeah, he was in that Karl Malone mold, right? He was kind of a dutiful power forward.
One thing that people don't remember about Karl Malone is that he took so many long fucking twos. So many. More than from any other spot on the court. All he did was take long twos and foul shots. That was like his entire game. And in our mind, we're like, Karl Malone, this and that. Like, no.
It's a finesse
Foul
player.
shots and long twos. No, he was physical, but it was like, I mean, as a player, but that was how he would draw fouls. But his shots, just long twos.
Yeah.
When we look at it today and you say, well, this guy just shoots a lot of threes. Man, they're the same fucking shots. They're just 5 feet back. Relax.
They're more fun. Yeah.
It's just further, man. It's the same shot. Like, were you really entertained by Karl Malone shooting a 19-footer, but you're just bored to death of Karl Anthony Towns shooting one from 25? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and just talking about in the moment what this LaMarcus Aldridge retirement means in terms of basketball, I'm glad he's doing it. That's a really scary story for him to tell. When he was like, it's crazy to think like someone like LaMarcus Aldridge is ever scared of anything. So to hear him being like, I was terrified. God, man, did you listen to that Rudy Gobert? Shout out to Pablo Torre, friend of the pod. His daily about the night Rudy Gobert started COVID. It's like, it's wild to hear these people like who look like Rudy and LaMarcus Aldridge talk about being scared. It's just like, it kind of sends shudders down my spine. And Rudy Gobert was like, I found out on TV that I had COVID and we didn't know anything. So I called my mom to say goodbye. It was crazy. And he survived, and he's a runner-up of Defensive Player of the Year this year. But to hear LaMarcus...
A solid top 5 to 10 defender, clearly not within the top 2, which is Ben Simmons and Nerlens Noel. But he's in that lower mix, sure.
It's tough when greats like Dorian Finney-Smith could game plan against you, but still respect. I mean, he gets his blocks,
Did you see the post that the Jazz put up? And it was like guarding 1 through 5 with a little like X out symbol next to it. And of course he can't guard point guards at all. But
or forwards. Like, what are we talking about?
No. And the clip they showed was him blatantly goaltending. A guy goes in for a layup, it goes off the glass, Rudy smacks it.
Yeah.
You're like, blatant, brazen goaltend. It may have been uncalled, but just highlighting him as a great defender as he goaltends.
I so badly want to zag with Rudy and be like, well, actually, he is Defensive Player of the Year. But when Dorian Finney-Smith comes out in an interview being like, oh, I went off because I knew I was playing Gobert so I can get my shots. I'm like, well, if you can game plan against a defender, okay, top 20, top 30.
I'm just so over rim protection fetishism.
I know. I wanted to talk to you about this. I wanted to hear, talk more on this.
So what's happened over the last probably 10 years was that you had the usefulness of a rim protector become conventional wisdom. And in some ways that was due to not only effectiveness on the court, but statistical numbers about how to build a good defense. And, we've seen guys like Inez Kanter and Jahlil Okafor were, pushed out of starting lineups over 10 years ago. And the real role of the center in the NBA became solely that to some degree. It was a rim protector, and maybe you could do other stuff. Could you prevent guys from getting to the rim and scoring at will? If you could rebound, that's nice. We expect that as well. If you could catch lobs, that's also good. And if you could shoot threes, that would be amazing. But the underpinnings of the entire position, the prerequisite over the last decade or so, has been rim protection. And early on when Tyson Chandler was around, that wasn't really the case. He was a little more anomalous as that kind of player. But now you look around the NBA, look at our teams, right? Mitchell Robinson, great rim protector, goes down. Here's Nerlens.
Great rim protector.
Great rim protector.
Yep.
Joel Embiid, great rim protector. Dwight Howard, great rim protector. Those guys go down. Well, it's Tony Bradley. What's his only real attribute? He's a rim protector.
I mean, Roy Hibbert got chased out of the league early, right?
Well, he was just so slow.
Yeah, but a historically good rim protector for stretches, right?
Absolutely, with verticality. I mean, that was his deal.
Yeah.
But my point is that's 5 quality rim protectors on the Sixers and Knicks, who are both really good defenses. This is not to minimize that rim protection is an important component of defense. I'm saying that it's a dime a dozen. There are so many good rim protectors in the NBA now because it's the main job. And it has been the main job for the last decade. Like, if you were not a rim protector, you're not in the NBA. You weren't getting drafted.
Yeah.
You weren't getting that chance. And rightfully so. But look around the league. When you look at defensive impact metrics, which were designed when rim protectors were a little bit more of an anomaly, you look and you'll say, oh, weird, 26 of the top 32 defensive players, according to our metric, are centers. Well, now you're talking about below average rim protectors being better than elite wing protectors, defenders. And that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Do you follow what I mean?
Of course.
Like, you can't say you have a bad rim protector, but he's actually great on defense solely because he's a rim protector.
Yeah.
But he's bad at it in comparison to everyone else who has the same job.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, I always think it's a personnel issue. And, you called out all those great rim protectors in the East, and it just so happens like they exist. And these teams, like Thibs, really covets rim protection, and that's why there's a glut of them here. And Kevon Looney has a job because he's known as a rim protector, and that team is good, but he's a very limited player, and he gets minutes when he's healthy because of that one skill. And I enjoy that skill maybe a bit more, but your point is taken, and I do think it's correct. I just think having a rim protector doesn't hurt you, but having a multitasking player always helps you. So if you can do both, then of course you would choose that. But to get Nerlens Noel on your team is a very good thing.
I'm not opposed to the skill of rim protection. I'm saying that it's no longer the commodity that it was 10 years ago because it's become the primary task for the NBA center over that time. Yeah. You look at around the league, you're like, okay, Gobert, Capella, Miles Turner, Embiid, Pirtle, Adebayo, Willie Cauley-Stein, Ibaka, Mitchell Robinson, Nerlens, Anthony Davis, Al Horford.
You die for all those players, though. If you're trying to create a good team, you'd take any one of those guys. Maybe Jakob, Pirtle.
But that's kind of my point, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That if we need a rim protector, cool, there's 20 of them. There's 25 good ones. You can stick them in there.
Yeah. I mean,
they may not be as good as Gobert, but they can get the job done.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be annoying here, and like the NBA itself has become like a Type 1 society too, right? Like, it's everyone's trying to do like the same thing, and I don't think we're prioritizing rim protection the same way we were maybe 10 years ago. Although the Gobert discussion is annoying.
Well, I think it's been prioritized to the level where it's actually no longer needs to be talked about because it's become conventional wisdom, right? In that same way that when Tyson Chandler was first doing it, people didn't really know what they were looking at. Mm-hmm. Who is this like vertical spacer rim protector? He's kind of light in the ass. He's not. No, he doesn't fit our idea of like a brolic, pyramid shaped center. He's kind of fast.
He can close out. He can rim run.
He's got chicken legs.
I'm a fan. And what I mean by Type 1, it's like I also feel the same way about Buddy Ass Hield, right? Like you can get a player like him pretty easy. Seth Curry does not cost as much as Buddy Hield, but probably just the value is there. And I think that's what we always talk about here is there's mortals and there's gods, right? And I think the one skill set that is rare in the NBA, or there's a couple, but it's like basketball wizardry. And I think of players like we love Ben Simmons, we love Lonzo Ball, we love LaMelo Ball, like players who could see the court. I'm not even talking about steals or assists, but players who could problem solve and not see a play one way and adjust halfway through the shot clock on a broken. Someone falls down and they know what to do, right? Those kind of players are really rare, and the players you're talking about are great, but you're right. Like, they're gettable. I think you can get a shooter and you can get a rim protector pretty easily. You cannot get a facilitator or a wing defender that easily anymore.
Right, and, if you look at a team like Phoenix, they've also sort of shown that you can build a really good defense without a rim protector.
Well, they drafted Ayton, which is really weird, right? Only for rim protection.
Well, I think they thought he'd be a star.
Yikes.
I don't think it was based on his defense specifically. I thought
actually he was known as a subpar rim protector.
Yeah, I think they thought he would be just an offensive, Goliath.
He's not bad, respected.
But they have a top 5 defense with
Chris Paul.
Center position being, guarded by Ayton, by Saric, by Frank the Tank.
Saric is having a season. Yeah.
They don't have a
Mikal
prototypical
Bridges.
rim protector, and their defense is great.
Yeah.
And without turning this into a Sixers conversation too much, when people look at the Sixers defense, especially their bench units, and say, well, this is just Dwight Howard. You got to have him on the court because he's a great rim protector, and look how good their defense is. I'm like, it's true. The defense has been really good in not Embiid minutes. And it's true that Dwight is a good defensive player, and he deserves credit for being a part of those units. Absolutely. But there's more than one way to skin a cat. You can't say this defensive unit is only good because Dwight Howard if there's no evidence that that's the case. Because when Dwight Howard goes off the court, units with Tony Bradley had great defense. Yeah. Units with Joel Embiid have great defense. Units that have no center at all also have fantastic defense. Yeah. So I just feel like the idea that a rim protector is necessary to anchor the defense is becoming one of those cliches that might be bullshit.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it has a lot to do with the optics of it, right? Because it's a denial at the point of contact, right? Like, we're looking for the ball to go through the hoop. And if Nerlens Noel kind of literally rejects that notion, we're just like, well, look at that hustle. Look at those bootstraps. My grill is ready for a burger to go right on it, you know? But we don't really, I love talking about Ben Simmons because he is a wonderful player who dominates the middle part of a basketball court, but we don't, I think, as a community, give that enough credit. Like, he dictates what happens between the foul lines in such a magical way that it's a skill that we don't see that often, but I love Nerlens Noel, but I've seen that skill set on every team, right?
Well, that's the point, right? And I think what happens a lot is we have our ideas that we believe in, and some of them are proven right, you know? Rim protectors are important. I'm at the vanguard of defensive thought. Rim protectors are important.
because that's where the
Okay.
scoring happens and not on his watch.
But it's like you can be right, and then the game can change. You know, you can't let your opinions totally calcify and say, like, if you asked me 10 years ago, I would have said if you asked me 5 years ago, I would have said the most important thing by far defensively is having rim protection. But all of a sudden, they are everywhere. They're not hard to come by. And then you say, well, now that every team has a good rim protector, every offense is devised with a good rim protector in mind.
Right.
Okay, we're going to get guys who can shoot some floaters. We're going to draw that guy out of the paint with the stretch big. All these things that are put into practice in order to make the rim protector less valuable. Every offense is trying to make the rim protector less valuable.
Yeah. Yeah.
An offense can't make Ben Simmons' defense less valuable because he's not that kind of player.
Right. Yeah, I mean, creating every time Daryl Morey talks about building a team, it's like market inefficiency, right? You're just looking for
That's it.
that idea. It's constantly searching, and that is a moving idea. But to your point, right? There is no inefficient market for rim protection. Like everyone has. There's no way to game that. You just get one and you have one, a rim protector, right?
Well, and also we saw the innovation on that was really with the Bucks last year, and saying, well, let's get rim protection from the 4. You know, a Jeremy Grant on Denver or an Aaron Gordon. Let's get someone coming in who has the speed to play on a shooter in the corner, but can also run from weak side in order to add extra rim protection to our, existing center.
Draymond Green infuriated Grill Masters, right? Still, Draymond Green's name comes up, and it causes conflict, right? That is an unacceptable way to play this game.
You mean as like an undersized center who no one could post up?
Yeah, right? It just didn't look right, and it flew in the face of what we thought hard work was. Like, this team is not doing the work, and it was a market inefficiency. And I thought Draymond Green was going to be an influential player, but it turns out like this skill set's really rare, right?
Yeah, and also I think this applies to shooting as well, where if someone said to you, years ago, are you interested in a wing player who can give you 20 points a game, who can shoot 37% from 3, can ball handle a little bit? You'd be like, sign me up for this superstar. Bring him on.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes. That's a max contract guy. Good gracious. That's a building block to our team.
Jabari
And now you're like,
let's go.
yeah, there's 40 of them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the skill set that everybody has wanted, is combo guard, quality shooter, can defend enough to stay on the floor, and yes, useful, good to have. There's just a zillion of them now, because that's what every team has tried to scout for. That's what every player has tried to, lipstick up. I don't know if that's even the right phrase, but all right, let me put my lipstick on. I can shoot. I can do this. Like, I need these skill sets.
Oh,
practice my dribbling.
Lipstick on a stat hog?
That's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah, but they need to fit these criteria. Like, okay, all right, I'm putting together my dating profile. Okay, got my ball handling drills down. Got my 3-point shooting. Can defend a little bit. Okay, cool. Like, I am a dateable basketball player here.
You think your favorite player's baby Kobe? Your favorite player is really baby Jerry Stackhouse. We're going back to the era where, like, you got a bunch of Allen Houstons everywhere, and you need an Allen Houston on your team, or you can use someone who can shoot well, put the ball in the bucket. I think that's all valuable. You have scoring as a part of the game, and so we shouldn't think ourselves out of that. But there's a lot of Anton Jamesons in the league right now, right?
For sure, and I do think if you took, I think Bradley Beal and Devin Booker are great players, and they can have games where they just absolutely scorch your team and beat you, single-handedly. They just put 45 on your head. But there's also a reason that those guys have not had a lot of success by themselves. They aren't that caliber of impact. They don't have an outsized imprint on a particular game.
Yeah.
And I think those guys, you can find someone to do what they do a bit worse, but for like a fraction of the investment.
Totally. I love that, right, because a tier up is just you're paying for Buddy Hield all of a sudden. And all these new stars, like, I'm sad Donovan Mitchell went down with that ankle injury. I don't think it's going to be that severe. I want to see him in the playoffs for sure. But, like, all these players who got max contracts this last summer, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker was before that, Brandon Ingram, right? Like, very good players, probably make multiple all-star teams, but of that LaMarcus Aldridge vein, right? Of just like, they don't really get me going because they don't have outliers.
In some ways, they are the guard version of LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it, because Aldridge is old enough that he kind of came out of that 2010 era. Get yourself a Malone, a Weber, a Sheed, and wonderful players, Hall of Famers. But there was a lot of them, the Vin Bakers,
yeah,
so
Knicks
many
legend.
guys that was a prototype, 20 and 10 power forward. And they were kind of easy to find back then.
Yeah.
Because that's what people were looking for.
Yeah.
And yeah, in some ways today, I think we undervalued guys who could really shoot, and then we overvalued guys who could really shoot.
I mean, look what's happening in the Beantown, right? They have 2 all-stars, and their accolades kind of are their biggest support, but to me, they're just these aughts players who score a lot and scored a nice percentage, and they're good. But, God, I really pine for players who could do a multitude of things. Like Killian Hayes had a pass last night that was just insane, where he curved the ball. Did you see that?
I missed it. He's been sort of terrible, but I'm kind of also into him.
Too early. His quick small sample size was really bad, but he's a good player. And he had this pass last night where he like curved the ball like a bowling ball and kind of avoided a bunch of running defenders and found his guy for a layup half court. It was just like, I pine for that stuff. I mean, I love Anthony Edwards so much off the court, but his dunks don't quite do it for me. Did you see that Miles Bridges dunk that everyone's freaking out about?
That was a nice punch.
Yo, it was awesome, right? But like, we've seen better dunks. I don't know. I like, give me some Killian Hayes, man.
Well,
it was a nice dunk.
It was a really nice dunk.
Yeah.
But it's almost like we've seen a lot of like really good like facial smash dunks.
Yeah.
A lot of and they were great. They were great.
Yeah.
But like, can you top like DeAndre Jordan murdering a man?
Dominique Wilkins, yeah.
Like, was Miles more vicious? Sort of. He didn't throw the ball into the hoop, but like we've kind of reached that crescendo of like vicious on your head dunks. And like, again, this is not to diminish anything away from Miles Bridges' dunk, but if that dunk had happened in the past, we might look at it as maybe more or less, because there was kind of a posterization era.
Well, John Starks
like
won.
With Kemp and all those guys just yamming on defenders constantly.
The Knicks' third and fourth championships were won on that John Starks dunk. So, like, you could say in the 90s, if you connected on one of those yammers, you got ringed up, baby.
Champion.
Champs only.
But yeah, I think, as you said, it's market inefficiency. When no teams have a rim protector is incredibly valuable. When everybody has one, your apex rim protector isn't as separate from the masses, the filthy rim protecting swarms, the throngs of shot blockers who are there.
And I love,
and I'm wrong about these things sometimes, right? Because it sounds crazy, but like, I love Nerlens and I know how good he is and I know what he can do, but he also arrived right when rim protectors became fairly common, and right when power forwards started really needing to shoot.
Yep.
So he went from someone who I thought could have been a great center to playing a position where there was a huge glut of talent vying for the same spots, and rim protection became less of like a crucial component or an anomaly. So like, if I look back, I'm like, with Nerlens, I didn't see the game's terrain shifting in the way that it was going to happen over the next like 5 or 6 years. Nerlens didn't steer anybody wrong. I wasn't incorrect about him at the time, but the game changed. And I think we just have to always be really cognizant of basketball not being static.
Yeah, it's a living league. I mean, I don't hate the player, hate the game. But I like you trying to subtly salt my championship contending New York Knicks.
I'm not. I love Nerlens. His block last night was fucking regal.
Stop salting my championship team, MVP of the finals, Nerlens Noel.
The Knicks are now 3 to 4 games over 500, and the city is afire.
It is ablaze with excitement, not seen since Linsanity or Tisanity. But this team, I mean, I have complicated feelings about the things I love. But they are a fucking joy, man. It's not the players' faults for trying hard. I still don't think they're going to win a championship, but they started with this team. They started last night. They tipped off against Luka and KP, and I was like, they're just going to demolish the Mavs. This is not even going to be an issue. I can half watch this thing because they're better than the Mavericks, and they made quick work of them, right? And there were some wonderful Nerlens moments. And if they lost, whatever,
Nerlens revenge game, baby.
There was a lot of revenge happening. Nerlens and KP got chippy. There was some chippiness happening. But this team is good, and let's just ride. We're not going to get a good draft pick, which is fine. I'm just resigned to the fact that the cap space is going to have to be spent on Julius Randle, who is a good basketball player, man. And I know you don't like his style, but can you talk about that? What about Julius doesn't get you going? Is it like a LaMarcus thing?
He's kind of LaMarcus-y in some ways.
Sure, yeah.
I don't love ball dominant players.
Point Julius.
Who aren't like exceptional passers. He's pretty good.
Oh, he's a pretty good pass. I mean, he passes to an open guy, but
no, he's pretty good.
He doesn't create, but not bad.
I don't want to come off as being like anti-Randall because he's having a very good season. I just feel like he's a very noisy player.
Oh, he's a lot of elbows. I mean, the Knicks are noisy in general.
Yeah, they are. Which I do. I respect Randall. I think he's having a really good year. And if you go back to my Randall takes from years past, I always have been a pro Randall dude.
Oh, wow.
I like him. I'm a day one. I'm a big Jules day one.
Oh, wow.
What? I don't know. He's not the most joyful experience, but again, I do respect it.
I mean, I'm biased, of course, but I'm also, someone who I hope can talk about the Knicks in an objective way. He's really won me over, man. I mean, he has a multitude of skills that I really enjoy.
Shoots well from everywhere, makes threes, gets the foul line, makes those.
He's
good
like
mid-range shooter.
He's animated on the court. He gets his feathers ruffled. Like he's an enforcer, some would say, of the Garden. But I can't really find a reason other than the way he looks physically, because he's boxy, and this is a criticism of LeBron. He's not close to that, obviously, but a lot of MJ originalists would say there's no pleasure in watching a player like LeBron because he's just like a tank, and Julius has some of that. There's no elegance to his game, right? But he was.
He's a good dancing bear, He's got those quick feet. He's physical.
Is he two-toned to be a dancing bear, though? Because he's kind of ripped.
He is, but it's really just footwork.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going for the body positive Khalil El-Amin vibe.
I mean, those are certainly dancing bears, and I think Randall has, as you said, he's just jacked.
He's super jacked, man.
But I think it's that little tiptoe he has. He has very quick feet. It's the big guy with some wiggle, I think, is the way that a lot of people would phrase it, which I think is also...
Not to be confused with wet noodles. It's a big man wiggle. It's the dancing bear.
It's kind of like a lasagna strand.
Did you say lasagnas?
Lasagna. I said lasagna strand, but I like lasagna's.
We got
lasagna's strand.
We got to get to interns to work on that.
But yeah, lasagna strand. A rigatone.
Is he a new pasta shape that is causing Twitter to be a flutter?
That just collects an incredible amount of sauce.
That's the dumbest looking pasta I've ever seen, man. And I'm not a pasta originalist. Let's get this straight. I'm not strictly sticking to the spaghetti or the ziti or even the bucatine if I can get my hands on it.
The last thing we need is pasta turning into like hot sauce dorkdom. Fuck out of here.
I think his name...
It's just like I love hot sauce dorkdom. God damn it.
No. I tried that. It didn't work because they were all the same.
Okay,
but
good.
I love Jeff Passion. I think that's his name who did the pasta shape. He spent months on it. And he does the sporkful, I believe. He's kind of... I like him. He's funny. But, like, I wish the pasta shape was more awesome.
I'm not annoyed at him. I'm saying let's culturally not do this as a people.
I don't think it's possible. Like Dunks, has pasta shape seen its apex?
I hope so. I just don't want pasta shapes to go the way of, as I said, hot sauce, craft beers. Be like, oh, you got to try this new rigatone. No, I like bucatine.
I like craft beers and hot sauce nerd culture for sure, but I know what you mean. Can we get an horchata that is the size of like a frisbee or like a silver dollar pancake? Maybe that would be fun. A giant ass horchata.
See, you're already doing it.
I love.
You're designing a calzone in front of us on air. You're making a calzone.
How do we make the more better calzone, a more perfect calzone?
We have to have discussed this before, that no one's ever had a good calzone.
This is a Parks and Rec joke that I enjoy quite a bit.
That's their joke? That's my joke.
Okay. So you got Horntown, Scott Stringer, calzone.
Wait, they were saying there's no such thing as a good calzone? That is absolutely my material.
Parks and Rec has a running character who's obsessed with calzone, and the joke is no one likes calzones except him in the whole universe. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, it's a calzone. I don't know.
I still feel like that was Dietrich based.
Oh, are you serious? You think you invented? Okay. Let's go to the tape.
I feel like I'm like an OG day one calzone hater.
Perhaps. I don't hate calzones, but there's a lot of extraneous dough on the edges. But a good calzone is pretty amazing, right?
Wow. A capitalist who doesn't like extraneous dough. Here we are.
You forgot to politicize that into a question. Like, do you like trash calzones that everyone hates? Answer no. Do you like these horrible things called calzones that only losers like?
Well, here's a more important.
No, there's nothing more important than calzone culture.
No,
right?
I guess what I was going to calzone culture.
Let's get real.
Did you say cancel culture? No.
Oh,
Calzone culture.
Calzone culture. Yeah.
Cancel culture.
Yeah.
So, because we properly call bucatini bucatine or rigatoni rigatone,
Authentic.
do we have to call it calzone?
Oh,
Like fair is fair, right? Like, yeah, get yourself a nice big calzone.
is that plural or singular? Because like a panino is singular, right? And a panini is plural. Panini is plural. Panino is singular.
Well,
Very
a gallery girl would be a gallerino. No, that a gallerina. And would a gallery guy be a gallerino? Or would a group of
sure
gallery girls be a
gaggle of gallerina?
gallerini? Fuck, I don't know.
Gallerini is the best Knicks draft pick in the last 10 years.
I was waiting for us to get to Gallo.
15 years? That was a long time ago, man. Watching KP last night I will defend KP forever, man. He's an awesome player. And there was some hate going on Twitter.
I will give you credit, man. You and Steve Mills were right.
I thought that was a good draft pick, and I was also, as I do sometimes, I was like, there's no chance he's gonna win a championship on the Knicks. So like at his peak value, I thought they could have gotten like a haul for him. I always want to do that if I don't see a championship team on the floor.
You, I think, jumped the gun on wanting to trade him.
I wanted to, yeah.
But you were right when it happened. Like, and you never agreed with what they received from Dallas as being
Trash.
really enough. But you were very concerned about his legs
Yeah.
and his injury history.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about your first thing of like, he was like 6 games into his career and you're like, trade him for picks.
No.
Like, I'm talking about your opinion that his health injuries and health history was a real problem that you would be worried about paying him a 5-year max deal because of. And you were right.
I wrote an article about it and pitched it to all the media outlets, and they were so nice about it. They were like, well, we really love this kind of idea. Would you write about how good he is instead of wanting to trade him? I'm like, no, that's the whole idea of the article. And it never got published, which is a bummer to me. But this is when the Nets were holding all those picks, and it was known in the NBA that they were willing to trade them. And I was like, it's the Nets. If the Nets are willing to trade all these picks, then Porzingis maybe could go to them, and then we would have Jason Tatum, which would be really weird, maybe. But the Nets ended up sending the picks to Boston, and that kind of pipe dream went out the window.
I can't remember exactly when you wrote that article. I felt like it was like early in his like second year or something.
Second or third year.
It was pretty early.
Yeah, I showed it to you, right?
Yeah, I saw it and I was like, I don't know who's going to run this.
Well, like
not because of the writing, but I remember you sending it to an editor that I've used and you telling me that she wouldn't run it. I'm like, oh, I get it. They don't need that smoke.
Yeah, she was, which was odd though because I thought it was pretty funny. Whatever clickbait is, but I thought it was an interesting idea, and she was like, I want this article, but can you just change it to he's the savior? Like,
okay, everything you're saying about trading him midway through his second year for a few future draft picks that land in like 2025, I love that. I love that whole thing. But what about?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
he's the pillar for the Knicks, and they should never trade him ever. Can we do that?
Yeah, I mean, she was right in a way that she was like our viewership or our reader base just wouldn't be able to handle this, and they get angry at us. And I'm like, that's fair. Mm-hmm. Take it to the.
I remember reading it, and I'm like, this is kind of a preposterous take.
Mm-hmm. Ends up happening. Ends up coming true.
Not that you were wrong, but it was like the take itself was preposterous because it was like, whoever tries to trade like a draft pick that they hit on early in their second year for assets, because it's such a theoretical idea, right?
Yeah.
It's not like,
it's not common.
It's not the same as saying, do you trade Jason Tatum in a deal for Paul George or Anthony Davis?
Second.
It's not that, but I'm saying it's not that conversation. It's saying like,
no.
We just hit on this number 3 pick. What if you flipped him for 2 more first round picks? It's like, it's not tangible enough, if that makes sense.
Well, the premise of the article was he was a hit, but he had a clock that was ticking, and I was worried about his injury. But just being that tall and that skinny and that active, and he ends up rupturing his knee and getting traded for the god Dennis Smith Jr. But
you were certainly accurate about his injury history, and it's tough to watch him out there a bit.
I love him. I think he's such a cool player. I like his disposition on the court.
Do you like his hair?
Yo, come on. Like, if you didn't have like an Ivan Drago in the league, like, what are we doing? But, I feel the same way about RJ Barrett a little bit. He's turning out to be maybe a nice keep, but I was like, yo, if you can get into the top 5 of next year's draft with RJ Barrett, like, why not? But I think he's a keeper, to be honest. Everyone needs a scorer, and he can be like a Devin Booker type for this team, as long as we have the God Randall. I don't know. Too much Knicks talk. Can we talk about Jabari Parker, your boy?
The Celtics savior? Well, my only real takeaway from that is that it became clear that Luke Cornett is the future of the Celtics center position, and he made your man, the
Mo Wagner.
Mo Wagner, disposable immediately. It's Cornette's town, buddy.
It's what is the? I'm trying to think of the interns joke, but they're locked up in the cage right now, so I can't really ask them. But Luke Cornette is a god. He's the apex doofus, and he's useful everywhere. But what's up with Mo Wagner? Does he have bad breath? Because he is not a bad player to have on your roster, and he's not worse.
He's weird though, man, because he's not really a good defender, but he's very good at taking charges. And you might not really care about that.
Sure.
He's really exceptional at flopping, and he does it relentlessly. But you could also say, you know what? I want a guy who can block a shot. I don't want a guy who flops. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. But this is a guy who is, 6'11", and I mean, this year with the Celtics, he blocked one shot in 9 games. I mean, he wasn't playing a lot of minutes, but I mean, he just doesn't block shots.
I mean, Jabari Parker doesn't block many shots either, as far as I can remember, and they kind of shoot the same. Mo Wagner doesn't have an injury history like that and is taller. I don't know, but people seem to really love Jabari Parker as a teammate, so I'm glad the Celtics did it because it doesn't make them better, so whatever.
Well, the one issue with Wagner is that he really can't shoot. And I know that was what he was billed as, and he may be able to do it if you gave him a lot of minutes over a long period of time.
Yeah.
But he just has not shot well enough to
justify his deficiencies.
Yeah. I mean, that's all it is, right? It's this idea of, theoretically, he is a guy who can take some charges, grab some rebounds, and offer you incredible spacing on offense. But when he shoots 31%, no one gives a shit.
What is Jabari at, 33%?
Jabari can't shoot.
Yeah. I mean, that Duke allure, I guess. But was he teammates with Tatum? Did they line up at Duke? No, Jabari was before Tatum, right?
Yeah, and they're both one-and-done bus factory guys.
Yeah.
Jabari can't really shoot, though.
Yeah, I don't get that signing. There was a lot of enthusiasm in the same way, I think the BMM thought signing LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin in Brooklyn was an assault to the ethics of the game and the fairness of the game, as we're seeing. Jabari Parker's not going to do much, and Blake Griffin's not going to do much.
I mean, Jabari has been fairly decent, I would say, for the last couple years. He's kind of been a decent player.
But
so
his last few years are barely. Did he reach 20 games in the last?
Well, I'm saying the real issue with him is can he stay healthy? How bad are his legs? But I think he played relatively well. Going back from the 2020 season, he was all right. He's fairly efficient, about league average. He's not a awful defensive player that he was early in his career.
That's a Knicks/Lakers ass signing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, also it's wild that he's only 26.
Wow, that's it. That's wild.
He's a kid.
I mean, I hope he balls out. There was a stretch in Milwaukee that he was kind of looking like a mainstay in the NBA, but both knees, right? Both knees went out on him.
I think so. I felt as if his defense and offense improved a little bit, but every time it seemed like he was making strides, he just has those knees full of sawdust.
Ugh. And he got doughy. He turned into a Bucatini boy a little bit. He doesn't have that Kobe focus.
He's no Anthony Tolliver.
Nature's healing. Joe Biden's in the White House. We're talking about Britney Spears. Anthony Tolliver's on the NBA court.
Well, now we can focus on building what we need. A more perfect kill zone.
I love cookies. I love cookies.